where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
A man who has recently fallen ill now walks with a limp. He's still able to get around, but he has very severe balance issues, we'll say. And one day, before he steps out of his car, he's about to go into a local coffee shop, but he stops for a minute and he goes down kind of this rabbit hole, and where he's looking at just Instagram short after Instagram short. And this is called a scroll session for those that haven't found the name for this phenomena yet. But he goes down this particular rabbit hole, which is scroll session, and he realizes at some point that he's in a scroll session, and he turns off the screen and he gets out the car to go into the coffee shop. But as he actually closes the door and he starts to correct his balance, as he normally does, he realizes that he has to make a much more serious effort to correct course than even what he's grown accustomed to with this recent illness. In his next scroll session, he'll realize that the time he spent scrolling was the actual cause for this new loss of balance, this added loss of balance. And this story, that man in this story is me in 2024. And what I really want to get across to you guys here is I'm not exaggerating about this experience. And I want you guys to really understand that it was extreme enough to where I immediately thought to check again and see and check in with myself if that had been due to the scroll session, and I would say it most certainly was due to the scroll session. Now, my situation may make you reevaluate really the desired outcome of these tech weirdos when they advertise virtual worlds like Meta to consumers. You've always been a number to these people, but it feels like the time that we spend in the physical world it's become an inconvenience to them and their wishes. Many of these millennials, myself included, they would feel disconnected from the newer generations that are coming up today. And a lot of because a lot of us we look at people who are willing to do just insane things for social media views, and even as far as running their lives, okay? Well, we'll look at them and we feel disconnected. But you need to understand who's creating the platforms right now, because these people today, they can be more really understood in terms of the newer generation coming up. They can be understood as a new species, right? We have the same physical environment as a lot of these guys, but the actual molding of behavior that takes place, the psychology of what is, you can't look at the physical environment and point to that as the indicator for what's happening. And I need to remind people that I need to remind millennials and the older generations that these are the people who are creating our social media platforms.
Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
It just seems like we're at the point with technology where the physical and the digital worlds should really be fully blended.
I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
And I interviewed many smear artists, Democrats and Republicans, for the book. You might be surprised that they're happy to talk about what they do and how successful they are at manipulating public opinion. But as one of them told me, and I've spoken of this, it gave me chills when he said it. He said virtually every image that crosses your path on a daily basis, not just the news, but in movies and comedy channels and billboards and things nonprofits put out. He said almost everything was put there for a reason by somebody who paid a lot of money to put that in the public view. And once you start understanding, I call it sort of the Truman Show, an old movie if some people have seen it, but you start understanding we're sort of in a Truman Show. We're a product, we the public, and there are all kinds of people paying a lot of money to pull strings behind the scenes to make sure we see certain things on TV and on the news and read things on the news, and that we do not see certain things on the news.
How much time you invest into the online world is going to be a metric for just how poor you are in 2026. So I come to you now and I recommend a digital detox. And there's a few ways to do this. One is to meditate. Choose your method, and I don't care what method that is, but I do recommend that it include deep breaths into the nose and filling the lower lung of the diaphragm. Okay, so when you breathe in through your nose. You need to honestly practice breathing into your nose on a resting basis, but breathing into your nose and into the lower belly. Those are probably going to be the most important things when it comes down to this idea of meditation that I can think of. And many people, they recommend to spend every day doing this consistent practice. And I'm actually, I'm not against that by any means, but say, for instance, you don't really find it to where you want to spend every day doing this particular practice, but you kind of do want the benefits. I recommend that you understand what I would call your baseline is for emotion, okay? And the point here in terms of meditation is to understand is when you're losing your baseline and when you can come back to your baseline, right? And what makes you come back to your baseline and how you can come back to your baseline, okay? And this is, I think this is the foundation for meditation, because I find myself able to simply stand in line and wait. I find myself simply, if there is a situation of silence for any moment, I can sit and be in that silence. That's, I would say, the important factor in terms of meditation. Learning how to exist in silence and learning how to understand when your emotions are being manipulated by anything outside of you. The next thing that I'd recommend is for this digital detox is, of course, exercise. And exercising to the point that this becomes a habit, right? When I don't exercise, it actually hurts me. Right? I actually like exercising. And also this idea of, this is another hot take, I'll say, grip strengtheners also, I would say, to maintain your focus and also just be able to kind of come back to your body in a certain way. Another thing is journaling on a regular basis, right? I got another little hot take here, which is try and keep up with the realizations that you may really come into contact with, right? And when you have like some kind of crazy realization, try to stamp the realization or journal the realization with the specific time and dates, or time and place. So the actual time. So if it's at 7:38 or something like that, then write 7:38 p.m. in, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, like whatever city you're in, okay? And just note it. And if anybody's asking why, just shut up and do it, okay? That's it. But this idea also of the next thing that I'd recommend is reading physical books. And do not, for any reason, rely on artificial intelligence or treat artificial intelligence as a source, as an authoritative source of any means, okay? I hear a lot of people saying, oh, Grok said this, Grok said that. Grok was praising Hitler like not even a few months ago. Like let's really come back to an understanding that these are systems created by very imperfect and very flawed people. So understand that, okay? Coming back to physical books will give you an understanding of the real world, and keep you in the real world in a way to where you're not being manipulated. Also, this idea of social media. Of course, deactivate and delete social media on your phone. This could be in several different ways, but at the very least, you need to make sure that you're not getting notifications. A lot of these companies, you'll notice, like, they'll light up a notification on your screen, and the idea is that they're treating it like a gambling thing, right? Like, they're trying to give you a hit of dopamine every time you see that hit and that release, and it's just like every time you check social media, every time you spend time on social media, you need to view yourself as hitting a slot machine, okay? And get out of that mode. Now, we're talking about the more kind of extreme ends of the digital detox here, I would say. But de-Google your phone, okay? And this isn't like, now when we talk about de-Googling your phone, you're going to, this is extreme, okay? This is extreme for a few reasons, okay? But if you kind of have just been kind of going along with the flow, and you really haven't thought about how central Google is in your life in terms of the conveniences that you currently experience, you're going to have a very, very real, it's going to be a severe realization. But I want you to realize is that convenience right now that you currently are in, if you haven't thought about it, it is a trap. It is a cage that is slowly being massaged into place, and you need to understand that. So what you're experiencing right now with Google, de-Googling your phone is probably, it's like a cold shower. It's like a cold shower in terms of you understand, like, okay, this is what these things have been doing for me, and this is like, if I'm going to try to reorient myself in a world without Google, this is what it looks like. This needs to be something that's on your mind, because a lot of these companies can be really understood as really the private arms of the CIA in a lot of cases. And I feel like this video could be just a very real dose of cold water for a lot of you guys, so I do apologize for that. But still, you guys got to wake up at some point, and honestly, now seems like as good as time as any. Another thing is the idea here, the last one that we'll talk about here, is get rid of the chip in your actual phone and start using mobile Wi-Fi. And there's a particular thing called the Calyx Institute, and that I'll recommend here, right? And the idea is that they protect privacy, so you can kind of like get a mobile Wi-Fi unit and maybe like always have your phone connected to Wi-Fi through the actual router. The idea here is that that chip in your phone is able to override some operations and do certain things that you may not necessarily want done in your phone. So you should understand that. But when you have it in something that is simply providing internet access, this mobile Wi-Fi, it doesn't have the direct access to the sensory things within your phone, and that becomes really a new element of power. And you can also get kind of a virtual phone service and on your actual cell phone rather than going directly from calling directly from the chip. It's another element of discomfort, but like I said, convenience has been a trap, and you really do need to understand that convenience is a trap. And that's going to, the idea here is that's when we talk about a digital detox, this is a manifestation, right? This cage is being massaged into place, and a lot of these guys are essentially just big tech guys, right? They want to make things, create this network, right, to where they have even far beyond that, not even just like financial, as in like they just have class solidarity. They just have ideological solidarity in a lot of cases, which can extend well beyond financial incentives. So you need to understand that these guys are connected, and they're connected by their insane. They get together and they jerk each other off about how the world can look with like robot girlfriends and things like that. That's what they want. So you got to understand that. But I have a store where I'm selling particularly this idea of big tech fatigue merchandise, and I'm inviting you to check that out. And I hate that I'm in a situation where I have to kind of start with selling my designs through third-party websites. So the idea here is that I create the design and I sell the physical merchandise that other people are creating with my design on top of it, or by stamping my design to it. And I do first thank you if you do decide to support me for anything, but also, like, if I'm able to grow, I'll adjust and I'll create. I promise you, like, I'm pro, like, I am pro-human. If you can't tell, I am definitely pro-human. And the idea here is that I'll grow, I'll adjust, and I'll create a kind of a website, a networking system, things like that. But we won't spend too much time on that. But the idea here is that at some point, I even want to kind of, even with like clothing and fabric and stuff like that, I'm really liking the idea of one day even working with like hemp clothing and, maybe like just hemp manufacturers in a lot of different cases. But the idea here is that, hey, if you like the idea of big tech fatigue merchandise, thanks for support you can support the, by going to the Etsy shop. It's called the Blackbird Shop. And I really do thank you for listening, and I definitely appreciate a comment, a like, whatever you got, anything. And I wish you guys all the best of luck, and I really hope that you guys do whatever you can to stay out of the Matrix.
Where those who perceive truth may strive to make others see.
A big, powerful America, and shoot them for what?
On that continent, we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other.
With the last words on my lips, that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.